Hello there. It is still Work Your Package Wednesday. It's still Work Your Package Wednesday. I know it's late and it's a holiday weekend, and I know that some people may not pop on because it's a holiday weekend. People out there barbecuing. If you are in the DMV area, you are excited because it is not raining. But I did want to come on here very quickly just to talk about real freedom is in forgiveness. So I'm outside, I'm on my deck, so you're going to hear the airplanes flying over, you're going to hear the crickets come and chirp, and I think there's some cicadas in the back. You might hear my husband come out here and say, "Babe, do you want biscuits?" because he's cooking biscuits. I'm very excited about that. Hey y'all, how y'all doing? So y'all may hear some stuff about that. Hey Melissa, how are you? So I wanted to talk about independence comes with forgiveness. And I think I've been posting a lot of things about forgiveness over this past week. Wait, let me stop. I do this every single time. I need somebody to hold up like the virtual cue card that says, "Ayanna, you haven't introduced yourself." So I am Ayanna Castro. I am the founder and chief maven of Work Your Package. And my mission here is to basically encourage, inspire, and empower everyone to be absolutely extraordinary. That's really, honestly, my goal. I know that I speak to the heart of women, but my goal is to really just inspire everyone. So real freedom comes from forgiveness. And I've been posting a lot about forgiveness this past week, the last couple of days, because I have been struggling with it myself. So I'm not really one necessarily to hold grudges, but I have a photographic memory like nobody's business. Like, my imagination is very vivid, which is great when it comes to being able to find different creative ways to come up with a strategic plan for, an event, or coming up with different ideas for anything like that is kind of helpful. But what my memory does sometimes, it often holds on to bad stuff. And I know I'm not the only person that happens to. I know I'm not the only person that holds on to bad stuff. And it is debilitating. And I'll tell you why it's so debilitating. Because you continue to give people and things and situations and circumstances space where creativity and love and ingenuity and just innovation can live. The more you hold on to stuff, the more you hold on to what they did, what they said, what happened, the more you hold on to that, the less room you have available to grow. The more you hold on to stuff, the more you are chained to the past experience. So earlier today I posted how I am able to get past disappointment and hurt. It's because I choose to feed the memories that I have with good stuff. I choose to believe and remember the good stuff. Some people say, you're so gullible, you're so, you can be so Pollyanna. I'm not Pollyanna. I don't walk around with rose-colored glasses. I don't do that. But what I do, I choose to look at the good. So not forgiving folks, not being able to look past what happened, and it's not to say that it didn't hurt. You know what I mean? It's not to say that it didn't hurt. It's not to say that it did not sting. It's not to say that it did not leave a lasting impression on you. But the lesson in it, the freedom in it, if you will, and there goes the airplane. I think I'm in the landing pattern for BWI this week, which is great because I love the sound of airplanes. It just reminds me of travel. What was I saying? So in the freedom of forgiving, in the freedom of forgiving and letting go of what happened to you, what somebody said to you, did to you, or whatever, it frees you from their negativity and from their toxic way, if that makes sense. I was sitting here and I was looking through my notebook. I told y'all I have like tons of notebooks with all kind of stuff in it. And one of the things that I was reading through was my notes that I took at my Work Your Package 2016 conference, where Unica J spent a good amount of time on habits. And one of the things that she said is that when you choose not to forgive, you settle. And you are giving the people who hurt you space. I had to reread that sentence a couple of times because it's so very true. It's poignant. It is fact. When you don't forgive, when you don't let go, when you don't choose a different path, because forgiveness is a choice. Like, I don't ever want anybody to sit up there and tell me that, oh, I just can't forgive. That's a lie. Forgiveness is a choice. You can choose to forgive. You can choose to move on. Forgiving does not mean, exactly, Melissa, forgiveness is not denial of what happened. Forgiveness is not saying, oh, that didn't happen. No, forgiveness doesn't say that. Forgiveness says, I choose not to hold on to that hurt. I choose not to hold on to the disappointment of what I thought could have been. Forgiveness is the release of, I thought this should have went a different way. Forgiveness allows you to move on. Forgiveness allows you to say, you know what? I learned a lesson here. Forgiveness allows you to say, I choose not to live in a life of resentment. So imagine this. Imagine you are doing everything great and everything is wonderful and everything is fantastic, and you were moving along and you were clicking on all 12 cylinders and you were doing your thing. But in the back of your mind, in the recesses of your mind, in the back parts of your mind, you are still holding on to what somebody did to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You're still holding on to that. That space that memory is taking up is taking away from what you could be doing next week, tomorrow even. Like, it's taking up that bandwidth, that mental bandwidth that I often talk about. And my friends laugh at me when I say I don't have the mental bandwidth to deal with whatever. It means I don't have the mental bandwidth to deal with something that's not going to feed my future. So I have a vision of what my future looks like. I have a vision of what my ideal day looks like. I have a vision of what my happiness is, my fulfillment is. I have a vision of that. And if I'm holding on to what happened in a negative light, if I'm holding on to things that honestly I need to let go and forgive, I don't make room for things that are coming. It's like you holding on to something, right? You holding. Your fist is closed. If you let it go, you have room to receive more. The other thing that Unica said that really resonated with me, your forgiveness needs to be with your heart and not your mouth. Your forgiveness needs to be with your heart and your mouth. So you could sit up there and say, oh, I forgive you. You see how I did that? Oh, I forgive you. That's fine. I forgive you. I forgive you. But in your heart, if you are still holding on to that, guess what? Your heart, in my opinion, this is my own philosophy. There's nothing scientific backing up. I believe that your heart is directly reflected in your eyes. So now they say eyes are the windows to the soul. I believe that your eyes reflect what your heart feels. So if you're telling me, I forgave that person, but in your eyes, I still see that sadness. I still see that hurt. I still see that despair. You haven't truly forgiven anybody. You are giving mouth service, and you're doing yourself a disservice by not doing the work within your heart to truly forgive somebody. I have been hurt multiple times over. There are people who have hurt me very deeply. I have cried. I have shed some tears. I have boo-hooed about it. I probably had one too many glasses of wine over it. But I haven't allowed it to stop me from growing. Because within my heart, I can say, Yeah, I forgave that person. I forgave him. And here's the thing, like, people may disagree with me. They may say, oh, well, you have to tell the person you forgive them. For what? Why do you have to tell them that you forgave them? Because honestly, they may not even know that they hurt you. They might not even know that they've done something to hurt you that requires forgiveness. Some people walk around completely oblivious, not even knowing that they have done something so egregious to you, and they just have no idea. All they know is that you have kind of fallen back, kind of gone away. You know, your conversation with them is different. Like, they really don't know what happened because you never told them. I was watching, and this is a complete segue, but it makes sense. Stay with me. I was watching the Netflix special, The Crown. And in one of the episodes, Prince Philip is talking to Queen Elizabeth, and she's pissed. She's pissed about something. And he was like, if you have a charge to make, be a grown-up and state it. I completely agree with that statement. If you have a charge to make, be a grown-up and state it. Some people don't know that they've hurt you because you haven't said anything, but you've just chosen to just kind of slink away. I'm completely guilty of that. I don't really like confrontation. To be quite honest with you, I don't like confrontation. If it comes to me, I can handle it, but I don't necessarily like it. You know what I mean? I just don't like it. But if you're walking around with that hurt, and you're walking around with that, I can't believe they did that, I can't believe he did that, she did that, they did that. If you're walking around with that and they have absolutely no clue, and they're just walking around tra-la-la-la-la, how are they supposed to know? So you have one or two options. Either you can address the situation and say, look, what you said, what you did, what you didn't do, what you didn't say hurt me, and this is why. Or you can go the other route and stay silent about it, but within your heart forgive them and move on. You may decide later on down the line to say, you know what, a little while ago I was really upset. I don't know if you noticed, but the reason why I was upset was because of this. You know, that really bothered me. You can tell them later on, if you'd like, that you've forgiven them, but quite honestly, I don't know if it's really necessary. Like I said, some people may disagree with me. Some people may say that you need to have a heart-to-heart conversation and talk to the person and talk it out and this, that, and the other, and then say, you know, and I forgive you. Some people may look at you like you're crazy, like, okay, well, all right, fine, you forgive me. But the forgiveness isn't for them. The forgiveness is for you. Because, and I say this with all kind of love, they really don't give two dead flies smashed about why your feelings are hurt. A lot of times. Like, sometimes they just don't care. Sometimes they just don't care. And they don't get it. And they're not going to get it. So why would you take that time to go and bare your soul and say, but I forgive you? You have to do that work for yourself. You have to forgive that person for yourself, by yourself sometimes, and within your heart to do so. Forgiveness is a daily challenge sometimes, but it is your choice to forgive. In my opinion, that is the greatest freedom you can ever have. The greatest freedom you can ever have is to forgive somebody for something that they've done to you and move on with your life and continue to grow. And forgiving does, like I said, forgiving is not mouth service. Forgiving is not sitting up there and say, you know, well, I've moved on and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and, you know, I've just moved on. And that is not forgiveness. True forgiveness comes in your heart. Lip service sounds real good. Lip service sounds real good to the people surrounding you who aren't part of your board of directors. Your board of directors will check you in a minute with that foolishness. Your board of directors will tell you, who you fooling? Like, for real? Who you fooling? Because every time you bring up this situation, whether it's a month later, a year later, 2 years later, every time you talk about this situation, you still have the same emotion, vigor, tears, emotion, like as if it happened just a second ago. So no, you haven't truly forgiven. The best measure to decide whether or not you have truly forgiven somebody is if you can talk about a situation without getting emotional about it. If you can talk about a situation and it not necessarily be part of your story in why you are who you are. Some people use that to say, you know, because I've had to do such and such and so and done da 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 da, I am now this. Well, I could say that the lessons that I've learned have made me this. But my forgiveness is for me and for my growth and for my own sanity. Because good Lord, how long can you hold on to something without, because you just won't receive anything new? Like, am I making sense to anybody? Like, does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Like, it doesn't make sense to hold on to stuff when you can't forgive, because when you don't forgive anybody, when you have a hard time forgiving somebody, it is very difficult for me to believe that you truly can love too. Forgiving somebody and forgiving what's happened and being able to love, to me, they kind of go hand in hand. So you can't sit up there and tell me you walk around with all this animosity and angst and despair for somebody or something or a situation. You walking around with all of this in you, but yet you can love. I don't think the two can reside in the same place. That's just me. Again, it's just me. Views shared on this Facebook Live are the ones of Ayanna Castro only. Not shared by the, you know that statement that they say, these are my views. But that's what I believe. And I spent a long time being angry at folks for things that they didn't do, should have done, that shoulda, woulda, coulda. The easiest way to disappoint yourself is to come up with this whole imaginary myriad of things that somebody should have done, and they don't have a clue that they should have done it because you ain't talk about it, and it was unreasonable. And now you're mad. And now you're disappointed. I think that you should get to the point where you can forgive. And I don't always think you forget. I don't forget a single thing. I don't forget a single thing. But I can tell you that I do forgive. I can tell you that I do forgive and I do move on. I can tell you that I do forgive and let go. Because when I forgive and let go, it, like I said, it opens up the opportunity for me to receive even more. I was holding on to something like for a long time. A very, very long time I held on to it. And every single time something would come, I'd be like, see, that's exactly why I was mad at you, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and blah, 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 blah. And I would have this whole tirade of why I was mad about it. It had happened 4 years ago. But I was still mad. Good evening, Lucy. I was still mad. 4 years later, I was still mad. When I let it go, and you can say this sounds hokey and it's full, you full of it. You just making stuff up. I promise you, when I let it go, those of you who have been following me for a while, you know about the promise that I made to the Lord when I turned 40. Lord, wherever you want me to go, wherever you want me to speak, whatever message you need me to share, I will go ahead and share it. Wherever it is that you send me, I will go. I will go willingly, and I will share what it is that you want me to share. Many of you remember I said that. I promise you, when I let that go, that anger, that feeling of just, that feeling, when I let it go, doors of opportunity open that I had no idea would open. It was doors that I didn't even know were available to me when I let that go. Let it sound hokey to you. I don't care. I know my truth. I know my truth, and I know what I experience. When you forgive people, you no longer settle for being miserable. I think that people hold on to not wanting to forgive because forgiveness requires some introspection. Forgiveness requires for you to look at yourself, because sometimes within that whole process of forgiving, you have to look at what part did I play in this whole thing. Sometimes you have to look at that, and not everybody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to be told that they messed up. Nobody wants to be told that they're not, the best thing since sliced bread. Nobody wants to be told that. But I promise you, some of the best growth, the best achievements, the best forward movement comes from learning what you did wrong, correcting those, recognizing it, and correcting it, and not doing it again. You can do that through the act of forgiveness. So while it might be the 4th of July, it's all fine and good. But in my mind, true freedom, true independence comes from forgiveness. So take a moment and think about, who do you need to forgive today? Who do you need to honestly sit down and think about, who do you need to forgive? Because it is a weight that it weighs on you and you don't even realize it. It weighs on you. Unforgiveness weighs on you in a way that it shows up in the way that you talk to other people, the way you treat other people, the way you approach new situations, because you have all of this mistrust. You have this unforgiveness that's sitting in you and you haven't let it go. Learn how to forgive. Learn how to let it go. Learn how to say, you know what? I need to do the work to let it go, not for them, because forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. To me, that's the best freedom and independence that you can ever have. That's just my opinion. It is far easier to place blame than it is to accept responsibility. And I believe in the act of forgiveness, you have to accept some responsibility in the part that you played. I know that happened for me. I had to accept some responsibility for the part that I played in it. I had to accept the fact that I did some things that was wrong, and I did not communicate. I didn't communicate to the best of my ability. Hard for it to believe, right? I go and I speak and I do all these things, but I didn't communicate. Because I felt that it was just better for me to just kind of close myself off and not say anything. I tell people often, I am an introvert. I know people don't believe it. It's okay. I say this all the time. But I am an introvert. And sometimes it's easier for me to just kind of revert back into my shell and just kind of close back into the shell and not say anything. Well, honestly, I mean, it doesn't benefit anybody. So this is me telling you, sharing with you, the best way to continue to grow is to go ahead and forgive. And it may take a while. I'm not going to say this happens overnight. I would be lying like a rug if I told you this happens overnight. This does not happen overnight. Forgiveness does not happen overnight. Sometimes it requires you to be still with yourself and be with yourself and go through and figure out exactly what triggered the hurt, what triggered the trauma for you, and then figure out the best way to forgive the person or the persons or the situation that was responsible for triggering it for you. That's pretty much it. That's it. The whole theme of forgiveness has been sitting with me and resting with me all week. Like every time I turned around, it was something else popping up on my timeline about forgiveness. And it seemed like every little motivational quote that I looked at was about forgiveness. And then my shine on text that I get every morning, it talked about, what you focus on is what grows. So if you're focusing on the people who did you wrong, the folks who did you wrong, the thing that did you wrong, if you're focusing on that, you couldn't possibly be focusing on the fact that you have new opportunities in front of you. That all goes back to forgiveness. That's it, and that's all. So I hope everybody is enjoying their day off. If you have the rest of the week off, enjoy it. Have a fantastic time. I myself am going back to work tomorrow because I have some other things to do and prepare for. There are reports that there'll be some kind of rain or something like that later on this evening. But for right now, I'm going to enjoy my deck. I'm enjoying my deck. I'm enjoying the fact that my husband is cooking for me. He has some delicious barbecue ribs. Yay! And he said he's going to make biscuits for me too. I'm excited. But I hope that you listen and kind of take to heart that real freedom and real independence is when you forgive. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you for hopping on. Like I said, I know it is Independence Day and people are on here and off of work, so I do appreciate it. I appreciate you for watching. I ask that you continue to live and not just exist, because mediocrity is some foolishness and you were born for extraordinary, magnificent things, to include freedom from space that's being held hostage from unforgiveness. It is not beneficial for you. And remember that forgiveness needs to be done with the heart and not just the mouth. You can talk about it all day, you can write about it all day, but if your heart has not truly changed, you haven't truly forgiven anybody. And because eyes are the windows to the soul, your eyes do not lie what your heart actually feels. Remember that. So while you may think that you're fooling everybody else, you're not. The only person that you are fooling at the moment is yourself. Continue to work on it. Like I said, it's a daily thing. Forgiveness requires daily practice. And one day you'll get there and you'll say, wow, I have forgiven. You all have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for joining me for this evening holiday edition of Work Your Package. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a fantastic, amazing evening. Love you all for watching. See you later. Bye.